So this is like, because I'm wondering why I see a tower here. This looks like there's going to be the government is going to be changed. There could be, yeah, there's going to be like a dismantling of sorts of the government system. That's what's going to happen. There's something going on with business relationship. So what's going on with the business relationships? And this is on a grand scale. So this has got something to do with the business of the United States with others. Something's going on here with business. Oh. This is going to be an extreme situation here. Wait a minute. Oh my gosh. There's going to be challenge here with everything that people thought they knew. Okay? This is very interesting here. What's going on with this government dismantling? There is going to be issues um, with the business relationships of the United States and others. Okay? Um, it's almost like we're about to get something that we had no idea was coming type thing. That's what I'm getting. This is interesting. Like there is about to be some serious shit happening. And I see that it's going to be I don't want to say government is going to fall, but the government system is about to be dismantled as we know it. It's about to be dismantled. That's what I see. It's about to be dismantled. A lot of this has to do with the truth being uncovered.
One time he locked me in containers with his shipment of kids. There were kids in there that didn't speak English. There were kids that were sick and that were already dying. There were babies There were babies that were 6 years old, and I'll never forget them just crying, and everybody was just staring at them. Everybody was just staring at each other. Nobody knew whether or not to move. I was freaked out. And I got up and I held her. And they opened the truck and they took her from me. Because they said she was already sick. And they killed her. Her name was Bailey. There were kids in there from Africa, from Mexico. We got to this spot right over the border. They went past these colorful houses. They turned down these dirt roads, and there was a bunch of trucks. And they divvied everybody out like fucking retail. One person, she wouldn't stop crying, so they said that they would just send her off to somebody who was already sick, that had AIDS, that was going to die soon, because she wouldn't shut up. My pimp smiled at me that whole time because I had straightened up my attitude. I begged for him to take me back. I begged for him to keep me. And I promised that I wouldn't tell the social workers again. I promised that I wouldn't say anything if he just took me with him. If I could go home. And he did. Me still being stupid, I tried to tell my social workers. I tried to tell them my boyfriend is 27 years old. He takes me to elite parties. He takes me to these things that I don't want to go to. And can you please help me? And they just documented him as a boyfriend. My social worker told me that maybe I needed to just talk to him. Maybe if I just did something right, or if not, just break up with him, that it would be okay. Eventually, after going to elite orgies in Simi Valley, California, escort services, we got married. He proposed to me on a boat one night, and I was so angry because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to deal with that. I was 15 years old, and I knew my adopted mom now. I knew her, and I was telling her I have a husband, and I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that he's not gonna kill me, so I'm married, and I was okay with that.
There's so many layers when you're dealing with a survivor of MK Ultra, almost like an onion. There's just layer upon layer upon layer of things. The common misconception is that once you remove them from trafficking or whatever situation they're in, and you put them in a good place and you put them in a good home, that everything is okay, and that's not the case at all. If anything, life gets harder and life gets more intense and worse for them. We have dealt with gang stalking. When Allie first came, it took me a while to realize that on ritual nights or on different times, there was callback programming. That looks like sometimes the phone would ring, her phone would ring. If she would answer it, it would be a series of tones. It can look like somebody sitting across the street from our home and honking their horn a certain sequence of times. It can look in a lot of variety of ways, but it would trigger her programming, and she would try to leave the house. She was trying to get to cult rituals. Sometimes she would just go down. When I say go down, she would drop where she stood. If she hit her head on the ground, she didn't try to break her fall. It was just like everything just stopped, and she just would drop.
But right now what's being passed around is the situation that happened under the Getty, Los Angeles.
Museum in California. I was 15 years old. I was taken there by my pimp. My foster parents knew. I lived in a Mexican household. I told my social worker. Her names are redacted. I would spit her name out. I don't know if we're redacting things, but I would say her name. But I know she did put Child Protective Services. It's in the paperwork. If you were when we pass that around, you'll take a look at it, and it's redacted in the paperwork. But I did let her know. I told her what was going on. I said, hey, my pimp is taking me to these. My boyfriend at the time is taking me to these elite parties. She documented him as a 27-year-old boyfriend, and she left him alone. She told me, hey, break up with him. Hey, don't keep telling on him. Hey, that's just how relationships work. While they collected a paycheck, more and more and more and more. My pimp walked into the door of my Mexican household. And the reason why I say this is because they didn't speak any English to me. I never communicated really with them. We called them madre and padre. And you hear the accent a little bit sometimes, it's because I know some things. Okay? But I grew up in this home for a second, and nobody really ever talked to me. I grew up in a foster home as well with another African-American girl and 2 Mexican brothers and 1 white sister that went in and out. At first, it started with my foster brothers, and then my pimp started, and then I was going out of my window until one day I told my social worker, and oddly, my social worker called the police. My social worker came over when my mom called the police, and she asked my foster sister what was going on. My foster sister told her the truth. I got scared and I got territorial, so I tore shit up. I was horrible. I was evil for a minute. I really was. So there's some people that are watching this right now, like, I hate you. I know. There's such a long line. But I hated me too. I still hate me sometimes for the things that I did. So if you're watching this video, I'm so sorry. I tore her shit up when she told that social worker the truth. She said, yeah, he's in her room at night. Yeah, our foster brothers are in her bed at night. Yeah, she's going out of her window. Yeah, and when the social worker got there, I got really scared because I'm like, this is going to go really bad. He's going to kick my ass. Okay. And I took her shit and I tore it up. I put it in the bathtub, soaked it with water, threw it in the front yard. I was pissed. And I said she lied because I was scared of what would happen next. Then things got worse after my pimp walked through my front door, paid my foster parents $5,000. Not even that much money. $5,000 don't get you that far. They gave them $5,000 and they let me go through the front door with it unlocked. My social worker knows it's in the documents. The supervisor knew of Riverside County Child Protective Services. It's in the documents. The ombudsman knew of Riverside County Child Protective Services. It's in the documents, and still nothing. That's how it goes. These situations from 3 months old, and the most worst year of my life was 15, has carried on to right now, and I'll be 30 in a little bit. Can't believe I'm saying that. I wasn't supposed to make it past 16. So these affidavits, we can't go through each and every one. It's a lot. We don't know. We'll probably release some small excerpts at the end. We'll probably release them as we go. Maybe we won't. Maybe they'll stay in insurance. I don't know. There's no one to give it to. We did interviews with a few people, and there's an interview that keeps circulating, and nobody knows what happened behind that interview. Nobody knows that it touched hands that it shouldn't have. Nobody knows that people were entitled to the information, and we sense that. Why won't anybody talk about where the missing children are? Oprah. What's going on with that school?
Somebody you admire, somebody you respect, or maybe even love. And it feels good. I mean, if you're 7 years old and somebody, which I was trying to say this to my friends who had children, you're 7 years old and someone is stroking your penis, it feels good. Even though you don't have a name for what that is, it feels good. And when I first said this years ago, people were like, you're crazy, because everybody wants to believe it's like sexual assault and you're being thrown up against the wall and you're being raped. And I have said for years, if the abuser is any good, you won't even know it's happening.
Just because Oprah Winfrey is a billionaire does not mean that she got there with integrity. That's not what that means. There's give and take in every situation. There's give and take. If you're giving out here with us, then what are you taking? What are you taking? So even though she came off, she could have come off like she cared to people. She could have come off like she was supporting vulnerable people, people with mental health issues, people who had suffered injustice. Even though she came off like she was helping, like she wanted to be helpful to these people, there was an underlying agenda here, because that's not all it was about. Because in my opinion, Oprah wasn't the best in her relationships or partnerships with people. Okay. Now this is something else that I wrote down. I said, Oprah is separate from color, even when she's supporting colored people. The reason why I wrote that down is because I believe that Oprah Winfrey may be strongly opposed to her own people. She may have some strong opposition against her own people. And this may have stemmed from her childhood, where she says in one of her documentaries that her mother was living with another black woman, but the black woman her mother was living with was a light-skinned black. She said that this light-skinned black woman could have passed for a white woman. And she said that that lady told her mother that Oprah couldn't sleep in the house. She couldn't sleep in the house. So her mom made her sleep outside in a little area, like I guess on the porch or something of the house. She couldn't sleep inside with everybody else. And Oprah chopped this up to the lady not liking the fact that she was dark skinned. And she said she came to that understanding after she saw that there was a light-skinned daughter also. I believe that was Oprah's sister, half-sister or something, where the little girl was light-skinned. And so the light-skinned little girl was able to sleep in the house, and Oprah had to sleep outside. So this could have been the point in her life where she said, or she, in her mind, it was more acceptable to be light or white than it was to be black. So I think at this point, she began to hate the color of her skin. From the way that she sounded, like her childhood was not a good one. But here's the thing. Oprah knew what she dealt with in her childhood. She knew the challenges she was faced with in her childhood. Which means she also knew that, at least at some point, she came to understand that there were a lot of people who went through these types of things. She knew that these were the types of things that could bring people together. These were the types of things that could promote opportunities or avenues to better situations. Because if you're coming from poverty, you know you don't want to go back. Because you've already experienced that. But she knew that people would support struggle, pain, hurt, violence. Meaning people would come to the support of victims. So what I want to know is, if Oprah is indeed involved in any of the chaos going on with Puff Daddy. Her name has came up too many times as being associated with now a certain type of people. And what I do know is birds of a feather do flock together. I'm not saying that just because you're associated or friends with someone who has been accused of SA, trafficking, and a host of other things, that you are directly complicit in that behavior. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you're not advocating against these particular people. You have nothing to say about these particular people. Even though the media knows you are affiliated with these people. One of them, you were caught kissing. Another one, you were seen multiple times at these parties. You're even bringing people with you. I really don't care who you deal with. But when the people that you are associated with behind the scene, behind the media, outside of the media, they have been in the media for not so nice things, not so pleasant things. How do you explain that when you are advocating, supposedly, for the very people who have been abused by these types of people that you are associated with? That's what I want to know.
Oprah legitimized the notorious sex criminal Zhao Tashira, aka John of God, as a miraculous faith healer, one who could cure cancer, giving him international recognition. Zhao Tashira is now serving 19 years in prison for the rape of 4 women. He is facing additional cases related to several sex crimes, including keeping teenage women as sex slaves in underground mines, forcing them to have his children, and selling their babies internationally for tens of thousands of dollars before murdering the women after about 10 years of childbirth. Oprah runs her own Leadership Academy for Girls in Africa, a $40 million school for disadvantaged girls, where in 2007, several children were sexually abused and parents were only allowed to see their children once a month. Oprah was very close with disgraced Hollywood mogul, rapist, and abuser Harvey Weinstein. Her Me Too documentary ignored Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. Oprah was herself a teenage prostitute. She stokes the fires of racism in America. And she is a member of the Billionaire Club, or the Good Club, along with Bill Gates, George Soros, Warren Buffett, David Rockefeller, and Ted Turner. The so-called Good Club meets behind closed doors and discusses plans for global depopulation. The Great Awakening is upon us. When will humanity begin seeing these billionaire celebrities for who they really are?
So I'm just a little bit confused here. I'm very confused here. Why are you being accused of participating? Not just knowing, not just being associated with, but you are being accused of participating or supporting the cause, if you will. That these abusers of society have been charged with. I want to know why that is. So, if you are somebody that the world should appreciate for all their humanitarian efforts and the things that they've done, contributed, and all of this, why can't you also be someone who is willing to stand on everything that they've done in service
to other people. And the reason why I'm stating it like this is because Oprah Winfrey has made it known that she will not speak about the challenges people have been putting out there about what she said or her efforts in supporting them may not have been as positive as she likes people to believe. I do feel like this Oprah Winfrey, I do feel like you exploited people's vulnerability. I do feel like you've done that. You've exploited people's vulnerability for your own benefit. I do feel like that. When you made the choice to emotionally remove yourself, emotionally detach yourself from your experiences and the experiences of others, you chose to detach your humanity as well. That is what I feel.
Keith. So I wasn't telling her what was going on. I was trying to test the waters to see where she was at, because there's so many people that turn for money or turn for the right amount of information, or because they're scared. So I didn't know what to tell her. So I was always testing her when I started noticing that she cared. She genuinely just cared. So then I started wearing my wedding rings around her. I started letting her in and telling her about the bruises. I started letting her know about, I have jobs, or I serve my country, because I didn't know how to just outright tell her what was going on and put her in danger too. So I just kept saying I'm married, and
She showed up with a very expensive engagement ring. So I asked her to let me see it. I smashed it.
She smashed it.
Kids don't marry adult men. That's just not. That doesn't know.
I was like, oh my God, this woman.
But I didn't know that got her in trouble. She didn't say anything at the time. That got her in trouble with her pimp. There was just so much. The fact that she was saying that she served her country, or she was serving her country, I didn't even know what that meant. So I had to start researching and listen more closely to the things that she was saying. But yeah, she had military level MK Ultra programming. They traffic off the military bases. They traffic to military personnel, high level military. She was flown off the military bases. She was flown on a stealth bomber by the pimp that was handling her, Keith. He was starting to get elite jobs and taking her to elite places, which I didn't know at the time. While she was in CPS care, a lot of things can go on in a very short period of time with MK Ultra programming, with trafficking. They can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time.
There were some homes where I wasn't even there that long. There was a family that I was dating the son that was just coming up to be at the continuation school to hang out. He didn't even go to the school. He had already graduated. And then he introduced me to his mother and father, who were swingers, and into so many crazy things. And eventually I was their son's girlfriend, and then they're engaged to be their wife as well. There's just so many different situations. There's not a way to just spit this all out on the camera. It's not easy to just get here and do this. A lot of people see us in our sweats and, in our car, and there's lights and there's cameras, and, we put on makeup, we put on real clothes, found real clothes in our storage, and we're trying to tell you the truth. I hope you look past that and you can see that after all this time, after everything that we've been through, we've tried to pricelessly show you the truth. There's no benefit of ours. There's no gain. We don't need notoriety, fame, a media cookie, a pat on the back for surviving. doing what just needed to be done.
I will continue to take care of Allie. This has never been about Allie. This is about letting you guys know that we're in a war, and most of you don't know about it. You don't know what it looks like. You don't even know that it exists. There are millions of kids, little kids, that are being trafficked, that are being sold for organ harvesting, that are being tortured in ways you can't even fathom. We owe them to stand for them and to fight for them and to educate ourselves so we can do the right thing. This is not about Allie. This is not about the other survivors. This is about the children that are still stuck in slavery in the United States, across the globe, but in the United States. Most of you guys don't even know that something like that would happen here. But now you do know, and you have to move. You have to stand.
Your organizations are going out of state, or excuse me, out of the country to handle a situation that they won't touch in their own backyards. What sense does that make? What sense does that make? Do you know how many millions of children and victims, survivors are here in the United States of America, but we have people that are headed out of country and asking you to give them money to go out of their own backyards? It doesn't make any sense.
A lot of you might want to dismiss this because you think it's political, you think it's red side or blue side. These are crimes against humanity. They don't have a red side or a blue side. They don't have a color. They don't have a nationality. Children are being trafficked across our southern borders. Allie was trafficked across our southern borders. Allie went on drops across our southern borders. If you hear this information and you just dismiss it because you think it's political, you've done a great disservice and you're part of the problem.
Okay, so we want to go into the next thing because I want to talk to the kids. If you're watching this today and you're like, what do I do? I don't know. I don't know your situation. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to sugarcoat it and tell you it's going to be fine. That's a lie. It's going to get real bumpy. It's going to get so bumpy you're going to think, why don't I just give up? What's the point of fighting? If I have 2 seconds of freedom, why would I choose to lose that over fighting someone that I know I'm not going to win? I'm still standing here. So if you feel like, look, she probably don't know what she's talking about. Maybe I don't. I know nothing. But I can tell you what I've been through. And if you want to contact me, I can tell you what might work for you. I can tell you how I might be able to advocate for you. I can give you some advice and some tips of the things that I did. I can point you to someone who can say, hey, maybe they got some tips and advice for you. But I know damn well that I probably can't save you. And there's a lot of people that are mad at me for that right now. We're going to talk about that next. What's? Oh, altars. Oh, Lord. Okay. D-I-D. That was on D. I thought that was D. D-I-D. Here.
Also, we got a lot of questions regarding altars. We'll get into the MK Ultra and the blueprints in a little bit. That's where this originates. But some of the questions about altars, newborn altars. Yes, there are newborn altars. When they are splitting the kids, they try to do that in utero. They are already checking when the baby is in the womb how well they can pull the split. So they will introduce trauma, whether they are sticking them with needles, shocking them in utero. They are doing that to see how well their brain will split. Allie has newborn altars. If you are a mother or you've been around babies, you know that distinct cry that a newborn baby has that's different than anything else. You can't fake that. She has altars that have that newborn distinct cry. So that's how I know that she was split at a very young age. Young altars in bedwetting. I'm just going to go through the questions on these. Young altars in bedwetting. Yeah, there were, in the beginning, some altars that would come up and have bathroom issues in the night because when they were 5 years old, they had problems wetting the bed.
Okay, so who has seen what you thought was a crackhead on the corner of 7-Eleven fighting with a tree? Who has seen somebody that you thought was, just fresh out of the mental ward, swinging and spinning on the corner, and you're like, what are they hitting at? Who heard about that shooter recently in, was it Massachusetts?
I don't remember what state it was.
Colorado? Was it a school?
The amusement park. Tell the story. He was at, they found his dead body in the amusement park, and he had a lot of ammunition and weapons, and had scrawled that he was not a killer. What you are seeing is MK Ultra slave that was likely activated and triggered to go on a shooting rampage. But then another altar came up and didn't want any part of that and killed themselves instead. That's what that looks like. Most of your mass shootings, the Las Vegas shooting, if you look at the patterns, it's almost cookie cutter. If you follow what happens and everything, or your school shootings back in the day, Columbine, there was a whole succession of school shootings. A lot of times the shooter will be like, I don't know what happened. I don't have any memory. That's because it's MK Ultra and DID. Somebody is triggering them and activating them to do that. How do alters come up?
Everybody's system is different. So there's some people who have alters that, have you ever seen someone who they feel like they're stuck in the wrong era? They're like, they dressed the 1960s. They talk like they're from the 1960s, and you're like, the sock hop era or whatever, and they're stuck with that. Sometimes they believe that they're still the same cars to this day. They don't know the difference of what's going on now versus what happened then. There's those ways. That way, there's the way of some alters can switch, and one can be up for days to a year at a time, and then completely change. So somebody, if you've ever seen that example of, that's not even your character. You'll have somebody in your life. That's not even their character to drink. That's not their character to laugh like that. That's not their character to watch that type of show. It's really different. Everybody's system is different. So to just say mine, first of all, it's dangerous for some that are watching this. There's many people who would love to watch us fall. So MK Ultra programmers, stitchers, encryptors, decryptors, coders, programmers that will be watching this to wait to see if I say it exactly. So there's some things that I'm holding back on just a little bit. But to explain to you, my system is not the same way that everybody's system works. If you've ever had a spouse that you feel like you didn't marry the same person that you were with. You're like, hey, something's different about you. You don't act this way. Or that phrase of you've been married for 30 years and all of a sudden you don't love them anymore. It's like, that doesn't exist. Something happened there. Something changed there. So alters can come up in many different ways. That's what I'm getting at. It just depends on the person's system, and that everybody is different.
I'm Allie. I'm 21 years old. I'm the logical one, I think. I think I'm the more kind of mothering one out of us. And I think people kind of pick up on that sometimes. Like I'm more of the serious, I don't have my glasses on because I can't see anything right now, but I'm more of the glass wearing type of let's keep shit together type of thing. I like to crochet. And I like to read, and I deal with everybody's problems. Yeah. I'm Taya. I'm 12. I'm mom's favorite. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm like as a choreographer, I'm the one who teaches ballet, jazz, kind of the softer stuff. And I'm girly. I'm girly. I like to dance. I like to write. I like to paint my nails. Don't look at them now. Duh. But I don't know. That's me. I'm Leilani. I'm 14. I was up a lot in the beginning when we first met Mom. I was the caretaker before, but I'm not anymore, thank God. And I like to cook, and we used to go for a drive a lot, just to chill and relax. But yeah, I was on the level first, and before everything changed. with the structure in the system.
How long do the altars stay up? That varies. It depends on the situation. If there's a highly stressful situation, maybe an altar that can handle that stress better will come up to take that load. Ally's altars usually switch all day long, constantly. When you speak to each other, is it audible or internal? Some people can answer that question. There we go.
Any angels in here that would like to answer that question? Both? Both. We are getting more used to, I think my dancers, even that as a teacher, I think some of my dancers used to notice, I say we a lot. And I wasn't talking, I would say the choreography that we put together. And my dancers would be like, I thought you put it together. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. But I would say we a lot. So yeah, sometimes we'll talk out loud and argue out loud. Yeah.
What does it look like on the inside?
Ooh. Again, everybody's programming is different. I'm just going to say this, castle-like structure. Write that down. Castle-like structure. Diamond programming. Write that down. There's some things that I will give some information, and I know people will go ahead and do what they need to do their research. But castle-like structure and diamond programming, what you should take a look at. Our medical diagnosis is in the building, our document. We have a medical diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder since we looked, and we have this right here. It was the diagnosis for medical diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder was February 1st of 2012. I'm going to hand this around the room. There's some stuff that's redacted. And what do you want to about this one?
So in 2010, she's going to hand out the other paper. I petitioned the court to be her guardian or foster parent. In 2010, I was calling that she had DID, but that continued to be ignored.
That's the diagnosis, and this is the court thing. I'm sorry, but I was nervous at first, and I'm just ready to spit this out. My shakes, like trying to get it out and sweating through this shirt so bad. So I don't stink, I'm just sweating. So DID comes from trauma. Alters come from trauma. So while this conversation right here of alters, you're probably sitting there like, what are we talking about? There's different ones. Yes, and I'll explain to you why. Because there's paperwork from when I was 3 months old. I was sexually assaulted as a baby at 3 months old. It's in the paperwork. Nobody did anything. Nobody asked any questions. It's there. There's many situations that happened all throughout my childhood, and every single time it created a new child. It created a new person. I had to kind of separate from myself so I could deal with the situation. DID, there's 3 different forms of dissociative identity disorder, and if you could, that might pop up on the screen, I don't know, but if it doesn't, just go look it up. You got fingers, type them in. So DID, there's 3 different types, and there's different situations with alters. There is not one person that can tell me that they can go through trauma of seeing someone being hurt, seeing someone being brutalized, going through a car accident, being assaulted in some type of way, and not have to heal from that pain.
She would sometimes go into a trance. She would not know where she was. There was just so many things, just layers upon layers of things that go on for survivors. When she first came, I would normally, with my other kids, I would take them to do normal things. We would go to the beach. We would go on a picnic. We would go to Disneyland. We would do normal things. But when I was trying to take Allie to those things, she would go into a trance. She would pass out. She would get very sick. Initially, we would just not go. We would change the plans until I started realizing what this was, that it was part of her programming. Anybody that shows them kindness, anybody that tries to do normal things, it clashes with programming. And I was seeing the results of that. So we got to the point where if we had decided to go to Disneyland for the day and she got sick, if she was passed out, I took her anyway. I would just rent a wheelchair and we went anyway. And the more times we did those types of things, it seemed to break the programming, or it seemed to stop whatever that was, but it took a while. It took a lot of repetitious times of doing the same things over and over. There were times when her skin would burn, like physically burn. She said it felt like a sunburn. If people tried to hug her, like if normal, good, kind-hearted people tried to hug her, if I tried to hug her, her skin would burn. Didn't realize we were clashing with programming. We were clashing with her programming. There's just so many layers of evil that has been done to the survivors. Over the years, I've been collecting information. I've been documenting. I've created a dossier, which is fairly extensive, on names of people, on information that I've seen in her flashbacks, on information that her alters have given me. What people don't know is that survivors have an internal system and they have an internal structure, and that the handlers, the programmers, document that by making a blueprint, like an actual legitimate huge blueprint. Each of the alters remember sections of the blueprint, but no one alter knows all the parts of that, how they sell the kids, things like that. It's a lot.
Okay, everybody has a level, I think, of ulcers or DID. It depends on trauma, but there's no one that can say that the things that I have been through, you don't just heal from that. You're not just okay from that. It causes other things, which is ulcers. So I know some of you are probably like, what are we talking about? But we'll get into that more. Adrenochrome, what it looks like. Type of bunker. And what they do is they order the doors of the children's rooms. Hence, alters, DID, everything's going to tie back together, so stay with me. With alters, and sometimes in an internal structure, there's rooms. So you know how somebody says, like, these things live rent-free in my head, where those sayings come from. The voices in my head, those are those sayings come from. So they would order the rooms of the children, and then they go in and they scare the hell out of them, and they make them scream. The adrenaline causes adrenochrome, which fills that little capsule that they're collecting from. They then use that to power their bathtubs. They then use that to power their lights. They then use that for their water supplies. They then use that for everything that they need for day-to-day life. That's Monsters, Inc. The kids' movie Monsters, Inc. Okay, that is the most basic definition of adrenochrome. In the movies and in other things, it's presented as a pink drink. It's presented as a form of lotion for some people.
Well, it's this way in which one forces through microneedling. It's like a little roller with these. Some of you, I think many of you know it. And it pushes through the skin and ruptures the collagen, and then boosts it. You look like a burn victim for a day, but then it pushes.
What are you pushing into the skin, Sarah?
Sarah?
Carrie? What are you pushing into the skin?
Well, you push in whatever the facialist would like to insert into your pores.
But what is it?
It is an extraction from a piece of skin that came from a young person far, far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby. That's what it is.
Okay.
I
don't think. It's not like I'm lying there with little pieces all over my face. It's like,
who thinks of collecting it and having it for? We'll do something with this.
And
someday.
Why didn't we come up with that?
In the movie Tangled, it's presented as it's in her hair. When she brushes her hair, the fountain of youth comes back to her mother. But this mother stole her from her parents and is draining the youth from her hair. Okay? So these things are presented this way. Adrenochrome looks many different type of way, but adrenochrome is taken from the adrenaline of somebody freaking out. So being scared, being in a car accident, being sexually assaulted, being beaten, being verbally assaulted, being scared to the point of you zone out. if you know what that feels like. So adrenochrome is, I hope that explains that. There's assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions. If you are adopted, then things are fine. No. Once I got adopted, things were not fine. Things actually took a turn once again for a different war. If your house is clean, then it's fine. It can't happen to me because not my kids. It can't happen to me because we live in the suburbs. It can't happen to me because I don't involve myself. I don't watch that stuff on TV. I don't engage in the news. All those assumptions are what they are, assumptions. We wanted to clear up those assumptions. Another assumption is that there's white hats. That there's white hats that are protecting us right now. These are everyday people. Assumptions that we went into witness protection program. I want to ask somebody, has anybody ever talked to anybody that's in a witness protection program? Anybody? Have you ever heard any stories that someone comes out of witness protection program and they say, oh, they can't be safe? Are they allowed to tell you that witness protection program actually exists? No. Witness protection program is a safety measure. It's a cushion. It's a false flag. The second time I seen him was at his home in Las Vegas, Nevada. Everybody thinks he faked his death. He's not dead. There was many things that happened and he got set up for a little bit to still be able to live his life and still be in the public eye. He's still making music. He's still collabing with other artists to this day. But the second time that I seen him was at his home in Las Vegas.